Hey, what's up? This is Mike from Blood of the Wolf, and today we're going to check out this Peavey 5150 cabinet. Alright, so why did I buy this Peavey cab? Well, I read online that it was modeled after a Marshall cabinet with greenbacks for Eddie Van Halen's purposes, and so I like the Marshall 1960 AX, which has some Celestion greenbacks in them, I believe. Also, I was looking for a cabinet that had a different tone than my Randall over here. Also, this is a slant cab, and my Randall is a straight cab, so I was just going for a completely different look, different tone, just a different cab altogether. So I used my Peavey 6505 head. I used the high gain input. Gain on the lead channels at 6, the lows at 5, mid is at 4, highs at 7, resonance at 4, and presence at 6. Okay, here's the pedal board I used. My BBE Sonic Maximizer, the two knobs set at 12 o'clock, noise gate, tube screamer, all dials set at 12 o'clock. This is my normal setup. I like to keep the dials at noon and just kind of control, dial in the tone with the head. The guitar I used is this Jackson PS4. It's basically a dinky reverse. The reason I chose this one is because it has a Seymour Duncan JB in the bridge. So nothing too exotic. You know, your basic aftermarket high output pickup, the Seymour Duncan JB, legendary. Okay, so let's get to the Shootout here. What I'm going to do for this video is I'm going to play clips of the top left speaker of the Peavey cab and then the top left speaker of the Randall cab. Now the Randall cab has Celestion Vintage 30s in it. And so you've probably heard lots of very good things about Celestion Vintage 30s. Then we're going to go top right versus top right, bottom left versus bottom left, bottom right versus bottom right. And then at the end, I play clips of the Peavey speakers against each other. So top left, top right, bottom left, bottom right. And then in the very last clip, you'll hear just the Randall cab. Okay, so you can get an idea of what this cab sounds like compared to the other cab. Okay, so in conclusion, my thoughts are that I don't think either cab is necessarily better than the other cab. You're just getting different tones out of the two cabs. I think the biggest takeaway here is that you really need to know your gear. So if you have a cab at home and you have not tested each speaker, I strongly recommend that you do that, because then when you go to record or you go to gig, you can tell the sound guy or the recording engineer which speaker you want mic'd up. So that was my big takeaway here. So the Sheffields do kind of have that that Celestion GT1275 type feel where the mids are just kind of scooped out. So the Sheffields versus the Vintage 30s across the board, just like scooped mids. The Sheffields have more high end, and I don't mean like high end as in treble, I mean high end as in presence. So just like a little bit more of a high end focus. The Vintage 30s though, I do think that the palm muting sounded meatier with the Vintage 30s. Now, as far as like speaker to speaker goes, on the Peavey cabinet, I thought that the top left sounded better than the top right, and then the bottom two speakers, they sounded different, but I liked how both of them sounded. So I know now that when I go and play live, I can tell the sound guy to do the bottom speakers. Pick one of the bottom ones, doesn't matter. And then the weird thing is I felt the same way about the Randall cab. I thought that the top left sounded better than the top right, and I thought the bottom left and bottom right both sounded pretty good. Different, but good. So that was weird how that worked out. The top right speakers in both of these cabs I did not like the tone of. So again, in conclusion, to wrap this up, I don't think it matters as much what cab you have as long as you know which speakers are going to give you the tone that you want. And then with that knowledge, you go to the sound guy, you go to the recording engineer, and you know which speakers sound good on your cab.